So our first question is, how did you make a college list and how many colleges did you apply to? And I think I'll just go through the same order. So Aryeman?
Sure. So I had a college counselor. That wasn't from my school. It was through Empowerly, which is like a college counseling service. And basically we looked at my stats or like just my GPA and my ACT score, and then we compared that to other colleges and this is the average. And then it's not like a good measure of like where it's the safety, what's the target, and what's like a reach or a high reach. Those are all like the four different categories, I'd say. But that can give you like a good idea of like where how you want to balance out your college list. So you can apply it to like maybe if you're going for like IVs, you can apply to a bunch of IVs for sure. But IVs are pretty hard to get into, and you want like a good like you want to guarantee yourself into a college. So you have like your your regular state school. Then there might be schools out of your state that are like maybe not as like competitive, but still in your range. And then that's how I kind of formed the list. And I think I applied to like 22 colleges total. And so the Common App helps with a lot of it as well. But yeah, really just kind of looking at your like stats, looking at how you line up with other students or just other, yeah, at that school. And that's basically it.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Next, Mihir.
Yeah, I had a similar approach. I kind of did the reach, target, and safety. So for me, I just made sure that I had a good amount of reaches because those are harder to get into. So like even if you get into like one or two of them, that's really good. And then I had kind of like a medium amount of targets and then a couple of safeties. So I think I applied to 19 colleges in total. And yeah, like 8 were reach, around the same were target, and then I had 4 safeties.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Zainab.
So for me, I only had like the help of my dad. So I kind of just like looked at schools that had my major or like something that I was interested in studying. And like from there, I kind of just sorted like how many of like each category I should apply to. And yeah, that was kind of it. And I applied to like 14 in total, I think.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So this is kind of like an additional question from me, but I think it's very cool. It seems that on average, you guys did apply to quite a few schools. So would you recommend, and feel free to anyone can chip in, would you recommend applying to more schools to give applicants a greater chance at, being admitted into a spectrum of schools that they're interested in? Or would you recommend kind of toning down and really honing in on those few selective schools?
I can go if that's fine. Okay.
Sounds great.
Well, I think it's up to like your goals, kind of. So like if you're aspiring to go to a more competitive school, you need to apply to more schools in general, just because they're so hard to get into, even like especially at this point with so many applicants, that like it's smarter to apply to more schools in general. But you can tone it down as well if you aren't like aspiring to go to those big schools. If you think like maybe like a good scholarship at a local school or good state school, because like education wise it's fairly similar. It's just more prestige and stuff. But let's say you want a good scholarship or you don't have that money in the first place, toning down that list can help and save time as well. But yeah, that's really it. It's up to like what you're really aspiring for.
Great answer. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add on that? Okay, sounds good. Thank you guys very much. So our next question is, how did you choose which prompt to answer on the Common or Coalition app? And I think we just go through the same procedure as well. Aryaman?
Sure. So I started writing my Common App in around June, just because like I mean I didn't like write it, but I kind of went over like different prompts, and then I think I had my English teacher help me out with it as well. So having like a good mentor helps you. But a huge part of the Common App is that you want to pick like a true story. So you don't want to form your story around the question. Does that make sense? Like you want to kind of have a story and then pick a prompt that aligns with it, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Here.
Yeah, for me, I chose the prompt I did because it kind of fit like what I internally like wanted to tell in my college essay. So like I think look through all the prompts and just see which one fits your experiences and like emotions the best, because like for me, I kind of centered my essay on robotics, and there was this one prompt that said like describe a moment that led to like a period of growth. So that really like worked well for me because I had like a moment where I started getting interested into it. So just see like what works like for your experiences and choose based on that. So then it gets easier to write.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Zainab.
So I feel like for me, I kind of started it kind of late. I didn't start it till October, I think. Yeah. And I did the Common App, and I kind of did what Aryeman did. Sorry, I don't know if I said your name right, but I think I did. And I kind of just like figured out what I wanted to write about first, and then I looked at the prompts and set and just looked at like which one like kind of aligned to what I wanted to write. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. So I'm kind of gathering this common pattern of rather than like picking and choosing, trying to align the prompt with your own personal life experiences and story in order to craft, the most compelling narrative. So that's very cool. Thank you guys so much for those insightful answers. Okay, on to the next question. So, what extracurriculars did you focus on? Obviously, a huge part of the college application. And do you have any advice on how high school students should choose their extracurriculars as well? And I think for this question, maybe we'll just go reverse order. So, Zainab, please.
So yeah, I think the big things I did were I did a research internship, and it was paid over the summer of 2021. And it was like a quantitative biology, like a computational biology um, type thing. And then I was in this program at my school where I wrote like a couple of research papers, and I got those published. And then for fun, I worked at this place called Westminster Free Clinic, which helps people in my area who are struggling with insurance and like need free medical care. And then I think apart from that, I did stuff like National Charity League with my mom. And yeah, I would say like when you choose your extracurriculars, like you should just follow your passion, and then everything comes like naturally after that. Like don't do something just because of a college app. Like just do it because you want to do it. And then it'll be much more enjoyable. And then you can just study it in college and it'll be fun. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mihir.
Yeah, my advice would be to try out a wide range of extracurriculars because these are like a really good way to like see what you actually like, and then you can kind of decide like what you want to focus on based on these. So for me, I did robotics, I did the school newspaper, I was in like cultural clubs as well. So, and I think just like those different experiences helped me like realize that, oh, I really like STEM and technology. So that's why I started focusing more on robotics and those kind of things. So yeah, I would say like start broad, and then you can kind of just see what really interests you and then make like decisions based on that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we have Aryeman.
I agree with everybody else. Like a huge part of it was like finding your passion, but I think another big part is like staying committed to. So if the whatever you're doing outside of school, if it's not like aligned with your major, that's fine. But like if you're committed to it and you do it for 4 years straight, or even 2 or 3 years, like that still looks pretty good too. So focus on ones that you already started with beforehand, and kind of make those better because you can do a bunch of extracurriculars and have them last 1 year, but that's not as valuable as having like maybe 2 or 3 that you did over the course of 4 years and got really good at. But yeah.
I 100% agree. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, I think you guys did like a really wide spectrum of things, but I think what's really cool is that a lot of the things you pursued were, areas that you were interested in. So you were really able to go deep and, delve into those interests. I actually have like an additional question for Zainab. So you mentioned that you did a lot of research in high school, which I think is so cool. And it's also a trend I've seen in many high schoolers now. I think it's just a really good way of going further into this particular subject of interest that you're very passionate about. And sorry, before I ask you to answer that question, I'm just going to admit someone into the meeting. Okay, back to you, Zainab. And I was just wondering if you have any advice, if you would be able to share if did you like network with professors, or did you apply to a program, or just any students who's interested in doing high school research? What would you say to them?
So for me, I think my research journey started when there's like a program at my school. It was really cool. It's like a capstone program. It's part of like the college board, and there's like AP seminar and AP research. So like through those classes, I'd already written research papers. And then for my research internship, I did it at this place called the Institute for Systems Biology. And honestly, I found the place through like, I don't remember. I think it was like some like job site, and I just like looked it up, and then everything just kind of worked out for me in that way. But I would just say like do your research early on. Like I had to apply for that internship like at the beginning of the year, and so if you start earlier, you'll probably find the opportunities faster and be able to get like multiple to choose from. I like found this like really late, and it was like my only opportunity. But yeah, so that's
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very helpful. I know a lot of students can find difficulty in where to start, but as you said, there are many resources and many things you can pursue. So very cool. Thank you so much. Okay, my next question, or our next question is, how should students approach tackling so many applications and essays? I know, especially for you guys applied to quite a few schools. So how did you kind of juggle that workload? And I think we can just start with Zainab again.
I tried to stay as organized as I could. So I like had spreadsheets, and I kind of tried to um I wrote like the big essays first. So I applied to like most of the UC schools. So I just knocked all of those out as quickly as I could. Then I did my Common App. And then depending on how many schools you apply to, you have to do like extra like mini essays. And so for those, I would say they take kind of some time depending on the prompt, but some of them you can like reuse and like change a little bit. But I would say don't do what I did. Start earlier if you can. I started like way too late, and I was like scrambling. Even like on winter break, I was like writing essays. So yeah, that's my advice for that.
Got it. So starting early is definitely key. Cool. Thank you so much. Next we have Mihir.
Yeah, just going off of that, I think it's super, super important to start early because essays can definitely just get overwhelming if you have too many in like a short period of time. So if you have the chance, just start as soon as you can because it just gets so much easier to get some out of the way, and then you get better at it over time as well. So yeah, what I did also, I also reused like content from different essays. You'll have to adjust for different word counts, but if you have like a topic that works for a variety of like essay prompts, that can be useful so that you don't have to like rewrite a whole essay every single time. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Next is Aryeman.
Yeah, so like the earlier you make your college list, the easier it is to plan out your essays. And a lot of colleges already have their essays out for the next year, like around this time. And it rarely changes. I think it's the same every single year. I mean, some schools have like goofy essays, so in that case, you might have like you might have different prompts, but most of the schools have the same exact like questions every year. So in terms of that, like the earlier you start, the better you can plan it out. Yeah, and once again, like they said, it's pretty repetitive. A lot of schools have the same questions, so it's not that hard. But yeah.
Great, thank you so much. So what I'm kind of hearing is it's super important to start early. With proper planning, you can sometimes recycle some content. I know for schools like University of Chicago, sometimes they throw in really like abstract prompts. In that case, it might be more difficult, but I'm sure for most schools that is applicable. So yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing. On to the next question. What should students do during the summer, and what did you do during your summers? I'm going to go ahead and assume that you were probably pretty involved in your extracurriculars as well, but is there anything else that you would like to highlight? So I think we can start with Mihir this time.
Over summers, just try to do something that makes you like that interests you and also makes you look like you're doing something like either academic or involved in your community. So I took some summer classes at IVC. Those are always a good option because you get to like get some credits out, and also it just shows commitment even during the summer. Summer programs are also always a good option because sometimes they require applications, so that shows that you put in the effort to get in, and then they're also just rewarding in itself. So I did a couple summer programs in my later summers, along with other IVC classes. So yeah, those are always good.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Next is Aryeman.
I'd say like kind of continue what you've been doing for the past other summers. Like it's not much, I mean, I feel like it depends on what year you are. Like if you're a freshman, you might want to start taking classes, college classes and stuff, like for credit if you want to do that. Or you could probably join like an organization that you can pursue throughout the next school year, and the next summer. But like based off of how what you are, because if you're a junior, you don't want to start anything new before your senior year, just because colleges don't really care that much about stuff you do before like the actual college season starts. So whatever you do, make sure you start it your sophomore summer or your freshman year summer, and that way it just makes a lot more sense, and you have more time to work on it. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Next is Zainab.
Yeah, I would just say don't waste your summers. At least take I took a few classes over the summer, and then besides my research internship, that was when I was a rising senior. I really just say also enjoy your summer. Like you can travel and do stuff like that. Like you can have a balance. So yeah.
Sorry for the delay. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think, again, just early preparation is so important. Even where I'm at in my kind of high school career, there are a lot of things I wish I started earlier to give me more room for trial and error. But I'm glad to hear that. I think this is something that everyone has to go through at least once. But for those people, perhaps freshmen or sophomores, I think is very good advice to start early. Okay, so this next question is pretty short, but it is, why did you choose your major? So we can start again first with Mihir.
Yeah, I chose my major because I was really interested in robotics, and I especially like the building and designing component of my robotics team. So by doing that, I just gravitated towards engineering, and then I did mechanical engineering specifically because it's one of the more broad engineering fields, and I didn't want to really limit myself because I didn't know exactly what type I wanted to do. So mechanical was broad, but it still was focused on engineering. So I chose that.
Thank you so much. Next is Aryeman.
Well, I kind of had my major decided a while back for computer science, just because I like coding and stuff. But that was really it. I feel like I just like coding, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a valid point. Honestly, being able to commit yourself to a major that you're really very passionate about and enjoy, I think that's just, it really sets you up for success. So yeah, thank you guys so much for sharing that. And last we have Zainab.
Yeah, so I think because of my internship, I kind of realized that I really liked computational biology because it was a really cool combination of computer science and biology, and it was just so unique. And I didn't even realize that it would be something I'm interested in studying in college. I wouldn't have realized that that's what I wanted to do if it weren't for my internship. So that was really cool. And yeah, so I kind of just chose it based off of that. And actually, very few schools had the major, so I ended up applying to a lot of schools as a bioengineering major, and I was planning on doing an emphasis in computational biology, but it kind of all worked out the way it should at the end.
That's really great. And I'm so glad to hear that you guys are kind of exploring your interests. I think, if I'm not wrong, all three of you kind of have an emphasis in STEM, which I think is very cool. That gives a lot of room to explore. And I also know that some colleges also allow you to switch majors even in your studies. So I'm really excited to see, where you guys take your paths. But yeah, thank you guys so much for responding to that question. So our next question is, you might have seen a bit of a preview of this before, but how can students practice better time management? I know this kind of falls into, juggling the workload, but you guys accomplished so much in your high school careers, which I think is so cool. But surely that was a difficult task. So please share with us how you were able to do that. And this time, let's start with Aryeman.
I like struggle a lot with time management because I procrastinate quite a bit. But like a huge part of this is like people can't. It's hard to kind of conceptualize how impactful this time is for your future because the results don't come that quick. Like your college results come 4 months after, 5 months after. So I think a big part of it is just sitting down and realizing that these next like 8 months or whatever are just really crucial. Um, because and that kind of helps you like that motivates you to kind of like just get the stuff done. Because a lot of times like I mean, the minute we submit our application, we don't see a result, obviously. Um, but after this period, like it's not easier, but this kind of work kind of goes away, and it's like just like your wrap up period, really. After this, because after the semester, you're kind of just relaxing and waiting for your results and everything, and school's almost over. But kind of grinding, just like learning to grind and get everything done between this time period is like just the most important thing to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful response. And I definitely think, work hard, play hard. You guys are probably relatively chilling right now. So I'm glad to, see you guys enjoying your time. Okay, next we have Zainab.
For me, it was just trying to schedule everything so that I had like enough time to do homework and focus on what was most important. Yeah, I was probably juggling a lot. I had like a couple extracurriculars and sports and stuff like that, but I think a great thing to utilize is an agenda book, and I like use that thing a lot. So that's like always a really good resource, and I definitely think it like helped me organize everything in a really good way in fashion. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And last but not least, we have Mihir.
Yeah, I think for time management, it's just important to make sure you have like some dedicated time that you'll just put aside and say, okay, I'm going to do my essays right now. Whether that's like whatever time works for you, but just however many times a week, set a time of day, just put everything else away and just be, okay, I have to just get this done and not worry about anything else. Because if you just keep doing that like consistently, you'll be able to just keep yourself on schedule, and then you can really manage the stress better. Because once you get to like 2 weeks before the deadline, you have plenty of essays to go, it can get really intimidating and stressful. So just make sure you're on top of like your own schedule and leave some like time in case something unexpected happens. Those are always good strategies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I'm starting to see some really good questions coming in through the chat. So I'll kind of be following up after this presentation with those student personalized questions. All right. Thank you guys so much. So our next question is, of course, this is only if you don't mind sharing, but if you don't mind, could you please tell us what was your GPA and SAT/ACT scores during high school, if you took any of those tests? And I think we can start with Aryeman again.
I don't know what my weighted GPA was, but my unweighted was I think 3.98 something, and my ACT was 35.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And very impressive too. Zainab.
Okay, so my GPA, I think unweighted was like the same 3.98 or something like that, and then weighted it was like 4.72 or something like that. And then for SAT, I really would like to say that your SAT just has to be like in the range of the school. You don't really have to like if you're like looking at a school, just look at the range. Like you don't need to like worry about like getting a 1600 on it. So I'm not going to share my score, but it's in the range.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And Mihir.
Yeah, for my GPA, I think weighted was like 4.4 and unweighted was 3.95 or something. And then my SAT was 1580.
Wow, very impressive. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think in the US college admission system, these stats, they do play a significant part. And I think you guys kind of like, show that in order to get into these pretty good schools, you do definitely need to be in the range. So thank you guys very much for sharing that. All right, moving on. So on that note, you guys all have amazing GPAs. Do you have any advice for what students can do to maintain a high GPA and do well on their exams? Let's start with Zainab.
I mean, Probably study. So I just use like Quizlet a lot, and like I studied as much as I could in advance, especially for subjects I was struggling in. Like math was always like a pretty hard subject for me, so I like started studying like a week before for tests and stuff like that. So yeah, and then lots of practice tests for the standardized tests. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And next is Mihir.
Yeah, I mean, just make sure you're taking advantage of the resources you have. Your teachers are always like a great option to just ask questions. I definitely should have done that more throughout high school. I just kind of struggled on my own, but definitely just use the help around you that you can get. Online resources as well, like Khan Academy, are super, super helpful, especially for like SAT. They have a bunch of just free practice tests you guys can use. So those are really helpful for me. And yeah, just make sure you're on top of your stuff and staying committed to like doing well in school.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Aryeman.
I think a huge part of maintaining a high GPA and scoring well on exams is that like it's just staying committed and consistent. Because people can study well, but they can't consistently study well. So they kind of just keep their minds to it and like understanding that again it's pretty short term, because it's just that one semester that matters, or that that year. And if you just kind of keep pushing through, you can maintain the GPA. For scoring well on exams, I think like a huge part is just like, the connection with teachers, like talking to teachers if you're struggling, and that really really helps. Because like my sophomore year, I struggled a lot with English because it was like it was pretty conceptual and I wasn't that good with all the theories and stuff. But talking to my teacher and kind of like he walked me through everything and I got it, and I ended up getting an A in the class. So just kind of constantly pushing through and talking to your teachers helps a lot. But yeah.
Definitely. I 100% agree that being proactive is super important. So thank you for emphasizing that. All right, next question. So what is your take on working during high school? I don't know if any of you guys worked. I think actually Zainab mentioned that she might have, but would you recommend it for job experience, or should students more focus on their studies? Since Zainab, you did touch on this previously, please start us off.
So as far as work experience goes, I kind of made most of my money through the internship I'd done. And then I also tutored. So that was like really nice because I could like kind of do it based on my schedule and I could make money from that. But that was like really the only job experience I'd had. Um, so I mean, if you have the time for it, yeah, you should do it. But I mean, for me personally, it wasn't something that I needed to do. So I tried to focus more on what was more important to me. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Mihir?
Yeah, so I didn't personally work during high school, but I would recommend it, I guess, because it is like valuable to gain that job experience. And especially if you can get something like an internship that's related to your major, yeah, it's a super, super good idea. But even if it's not like just some random retail or food, that still is a good, I think, something to put on your resume because it shows like something that you like spent effort to, and it's just a good experience in general. Um, so yeah, that's my advice.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Last but not least, Aryaman.
Um, so I'd say like during the summers, it's good to work just because it keeps you busy. But during school itself, it varies. I think maybe earlier on it's all right, but when school gets tougher, you don't like. I know a lot of my friends they stopped working for a while just because with the IB program and stuff, school got pretty hard, and working can just get in the way of that. But internships wise, like if you have like a good internship, I'd say maybe find a way to either hold it off till the summer or minimize your workload because internships are pretty helpful. But once again, like you want a good GPA and stuff, and you also want to work on other extracurriculars too. Um, so kind of just like finding a good balance is ideal, but working isn't like mandatory though.
Cool. Thank you guys so much for sharing your insight on that. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So how many APs did you take, if any? If you happen to participate in like an IB program, feel free to touch on that as well. So this time, let's start with Mihir.
In total, I took 10 AP tests. I self-studied one, and then in junior year, I took 4. Senior year, I took 5.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very impressive. Attests to your great time management skills. Okay, Aryeman.
I took, I think, I did the IB program, and I just, I think it was 6 classes, which is, I guess, yeah, so 6 classes, 3 HLs, and then 3 SLs. But I have a story. So at my old school, I had a friend who did the IB program, and he also took AP classes. And I think he got enough credit over the course of the 4 years that he's starting his college as a sophomore, not a freshman. So if you do spend a lot of time, um, you know, working on APs and IBs and get those credits, you can kind of get like a jump start, and you can start earlier in school. But it's pretty draining, and it's not like mandatory. Being at school for 4 years and 3 years, or being in college for 4 or 3 years, isn't like that much different. But yeah, so it's really up to you. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I really appreciate that story. I think depending on people's schedules and their life plans, potentially jumpstarting their further studies could be really beneficial. So thank you so much. Last but not least, Zainab.
So I took 10 AP exams in total and then 11 AP classes. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot of work, but if you like I spread it out over 4 years, so it wasn't really that bad. And then I have like a good amount, like my school, like USC only takes like 32 outside credits, which I think is annoying. So I can't really get that ahead like as much as I want to. But um yeah, it is pretty helpful actually. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. The next question is, what part or parts of your application do you think are most important, including like test scores, letters of rec, GPA, extracurriculars, leadership? In other words, what part of your application do you think was like the highlight and that really got you into these top schools? So let's start with Aryaman.
I think, well, it really depends, like, on the school that you're applying to. Like for MIT, um, it really is just like your ACT, your GPA, and maybe some extracurriculars that'll get you in. But other, like maybe other schools, like maybe Yale, for those schools, it's more about like leadership and your extracurriculars, and your GPA and SAT and ACT don't matter that much. But they are pretty interdependent. So let's say your ACT is like pretty low. You need strong extracurriculars and leadership to kind of like balance it out. But if your ACT is high enough, the rest aren't as important, if that makes sense. So like it's pretty interdependent, but I'd say the most important in general is leadership and extracurriculars. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Next is Mihir.
Yeah, so going off what Armin said, it does kind of just depend on the school. For me, I guess I think the most important parts are probably your extracurriculars and like your leadership kind of, because that does show like what you're passionate about. And if you did like spend a lot of time on them and like get maybe like awards for them or something, then that does show like your commitment and maybe interest toward what you do. Obviously, like GPA, I think is still really important because you need to like have somewhat good grades. So yeah, I think just really showing like your commitment and your passion towards like a specific subject or like anything you do that's like looks good on college apps.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Last but not least, again, we have Zainab.
So like a lot of applicants have like really good SAT, ACT, and GPAs. So I think the really big things that'll make you stand out is your essay. So for my essay, I really poured my entire soul into that essay. So I think that helped me quite a bit. And then if you showed any like leadership in your extracurriculars, like that's really important. And then letters of rec, make sure whoever you ask for, you have like a really good relationship with. Like one of the teachers I asked for, I'd been with, like she taught me for like 3 years somehow. Like we'd had like a connection for like 3 years. So I think that really helped me out quite a bit when I was applying to colleges.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that was really great advice, guys. I think definitely for each person and each school, these may vary. But yeah, thank you so much. Okay, moving on. In terms of the actual applications and admissions process, did you apply with like early restrictive action or early decision? If so, how did you choose which schools to apply to and to kind of use that chance? This time, let's start with Mihir.
Yeah, so I didn't do any early decisions because I didn't have like a specific school that I like absolutely wanted to go to. I was like number one. So I did some early actions though, which is like not binding. And the ones that did early action, they were the ones that offered it obviously and that had like good programs for my major that I thought I would need like because like with early action it can improve your chances. So I looked at like the ones that were like available for early and that had pretty competitive programs. So yeah, I think I did 4 early actions. So it was yeah, Purdue, Georgia Tech, Michigan, and UIUC. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm actually going to trouble you to answer another question, Mihir. I think sometimes ERA, EA, ED can be kind of confusing for some in terms of like what they really refer to. So if possible, could you please explain for some of our listeners kind of what's the difference between these distinctions?
Yeah, so for early action, it's like a non-binding kind of thing. So they'll evaluate your application early, and then if you get in, like you get in, you have the option of going there. But it's not like you're forced to go there. For early decision, it's like if you get into that school, you will have to go, and you can only apply to one school early decision. So that's kind of the difference. For restricted early action, I think it's non-binding, but it like restricts the other schools you can early apply to. It kind of depends on the school. So I didn't do restricted anything, but I did early action, early decision. And for me, actually, no, I didn't do early decision because I didn't want to like kind of be set on one thing. Yeah, I wanted to like keep my options open basically.
Got it. Thank you so much. Next is Aryeman.
I didn't apply ED anywhere or ERA anywhere. I did apply early action, but that was just to like Georgia Tech and just the schools that offered early action. I don't think it matters that much with early action because like it's like I don't know. I feel like it's the exact same thing as applying regular. It matters a lot if you apply ED and ERA, of course, because like those schools that offer that know that you want to go there really bad. But early action is just like you know you kind of get ahead of everybody else, but it's not that much different.
Cool. Thank you so much. And Zainab.
So I didn't apply ERA, ED, or EA anywhere. USC was like the school I really wanted to go to, and they didn't even offer any of those options. But I do have a story. I had a friend who applied to like Pittsburgh early action, and they like offered her the opportunity to like apply for their BSMD program, which was like super competitive and like super cool. Like you get like guaranteed admission into medical school. So she got to apply to that because she did early action there, and she ended up getting in, and like only 11 people got into that program. So that I thought that was really cool. But yeah.
Wow, that is crazy, but thank you so much for sharing. So yeah, it seems that there may be some hidden opportunities, that if you pursue these actions, so that may be something some of our students might want to take into consideration. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with that. Moving on. So I think actually, Zaina might have touched on this before as well, but do you have any specific approach when deciding who to ask letters of recommendation from? And including like maybe the subjects they teach. Yeah, so let's start with Zainab first this time.
Okay, so yeah, I did one STEM, one humanities. So my STEM teacher was the one that I knew like really well. And she was my AP bio teacher. And since I was like applying to like a bio-ish major. I just asked her to do it, and because I had like a good relationship with her. And same thing for my humanities teacher. It was my AP English Lang teacher from junior year, so I knew him a little less, but um, he was really nice, and I think we had a good relationship as well. So I thought he could write some strong stuff about me. And also, you can do like I think it's called like a cheat sheet. I don't remember what it's called, but like they can like you can like write stuff about yourself, and like it's like you basically give them your resume, and they can like help you like use that to help them write your letters of rec. And then and your parents can also do that. Like they can write stuff about you that they want to um highlight. And then I also had one extra letter of recommendation. So some schools let you do like a supplemental one. And I had one from my mentor at the research internship that I did, so that he could like specifically highlight like the computational biology research I did and how I grew there. And yeah, that was about it.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Next up is Mihir.
Yeah, so I did one humanities and one STEM teacher as well. For my humanities, I asked her because I had her all 4 years of high school, so I knew her really well, and she'd kind of seen me, I guess, develop throughout high school. So that was my English teacher, and then for STEM, I did my AP Calc teacher because I just kind of felt that we had a good relationship, and she was really nice. I think she knew me pretty well, so yeah, those were my two choices. I did try and get like one humanities, one STEM to kind of like balance out the different subjects and like show different aspects of me kind of. But yeah, you can choose two STEM teachers or two humanities, but for me, I wanted to go that route because it kind of would show a greater variety in my personality. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And last but not least, we have Aryeman.
Well, for my humanities and STEM teacher, my school is pretty small, so it wasn't really hard to like decide who I wanted for my letters of recommendation. I would say ask earlier just in case they might say no. And some teachers are pretty popular and they might get like a bunch of like students asking for their recommendation. And in that case, you might want to reconsider asking them in case, they're really busy or you have like an earlier deadline. So, and then also, I would recommend having one external one too, like from an internship or like a volunteer project. I had one from my computer science internship that I used, but yeah. So having three is usually good if they ask for three, but I mean having two isn't again terrible either. But yeah.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Okay, so this is kind of like more of a general question, but if you could go back in time, what is one thing you would tell your high school self? And this time, let's start with Zainab again.
I would just say like take a chill pill. Like it's not like you should be having fun in high school. You shouldn't just worry about like academics and like grades and stuff like that. It's like a really great time to explore and just see what you have interest in and like find hobbies for yourself. And I would just say like go to the football games, have fun, especially your senior year. Like it was so much fun. So um and also start college apps earlier because then you can just be a senior after you're done with all those. Like it's such a relief.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Next, we have Aryaman.
Um, I think I tell myself to maybe plan things better. I think I kind of walked into high school not knowing what I wanted to do. And if I had planned my 4 years out better, I feel like I would have been able to do things in a more organized and more fashion way. And then also, I would have had time to have more fun as well. Because I think once I got everything organized and planned out, I was able to find time to have fun and stuff. But the first 2 years, it was kind of a mess because I wasn't sure like what I should pursue, what I shouldn't. So learning that organization and like I mean that's what I tell myself to be more organized. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. And Mihir.
Yeah, I would tell myself to honestly have more fun and just go enjoy yourself because high school is a time where you can have a lot of fun. And I think this year especially, I've gone out more, gone out with my friends, and just had a good time. So yes, college is important, and like staying focused in school is important, but make sure you're taking care of yourself and just having a good time, because you don't have to be focused on your academics all the time. It's not that important. So make sure you're just enjoying yourself, and just as long as you plan out what you need to do and just keep a reasonable time schedule, you can manage it and still have fun. So I would do that.
Very cool. Thank you. And I think it's kind of interesting. I'm hearing that a lot of this revolves around balance and time management. So that's honestly really great advice for us who haven't gone into the college admission system quite yet, to kind of appreciate our time and balance our time better, emphasizing the important things. So very cool. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is kind of on the same level, but how were you able to take care of your mental health and maintain proper balance in your social and academic life during your time in high school? And let's start with Mihir this time.
For me, I think just make sure you know, I guess, your limits and how much is too much. Like there is definitely a point like where you focus too much on academics, and I think I definitely did do that. Like first semester of senior year, I was way too focused on college apps. So if you start feeling that, just make sure you just take some time off for yourself and do what makes you feel like relaxed and happy. It's really, really important that you still like maintain those relationships with your friends and family, and just keep yourself in the right mindset. So just find out what is relaxing for you and what makes you have fun, and make sure to incorporate those even if you have like a lot of academics going on, because it is really important for your overall well-being, basically.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And next is Zainab.
Yeah, I would just say make sure to take care of yourself. That's really important, and mental health should always be like the biggest priority in your life, not academics, not social life. Like mental health should be first. And oh, sorry, so for that, I would say um, use use whoever you have. Like make sure you have someone you can rely on. I really relied on my parents to help me get through all of it, and yeah, I would just say balance your time as much as you can, and make sure to take some time off, and make sure to get as much sleep as you can. Like go for the 8 hours if you can do it. Like don't stay up if you don't need to. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Aryeman.
I think a huge part of it is that like your peers are going through the same stuff as you, and just kind of talking to them about this kind of stuff, and like acknowledging that you're not in this alone can help a lot with the pressure, because it's not like you're applying to colleges alone. Obviously, your friends are applying to the same colleges. It's the same essays for them as well. So kind of like, I guess, talking about it really helps, take care of your mental health and that balance too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So if I'm not wrong, I think this may be the last one we have of our slides. So I'm just going to go back to the title page, and I'm just going to start asking some really quite fun questions we got in our chat. So yeah, the first question I got is, what are your guys' plans before college? Obviously, you have some time to relax and chill. Any specific plans, or are you going to keep on, working and preparing for your academics? Let's start with Aryeman.
So my college starts in 2 weeks actually, so I don't have that much time. That's because we're traveling to Europe as like a group or whatever, and then we'll be in London for the rest of the semester. But I think a huge part of like your pre-college summer is the packing part and the moving part, because you'll be living alone for at least like 5 months at a time, and I think kind of like preparing yourself to do a lot of stuff like the dishes, the laundry, kind of being, and even cooking, like learning to do all that by yourself in that free time period, because after your senior year you have nothing much, you don't have much to do. So I guess using the time wisely, learning new skills, and preparing yourself with packing and stuff is pretty essential. But yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. But yeah, that sounded so cool. So I hear that you're going to be traveling to Europe in 2 weeks. Could you maybe just like share with everyone, are you participating in some kind of program that allows you to study in Europe for a semester?
Yeah, so Georgia Tech has this like um, thing at Oxford basically, which is like they take you around Europe to like 7 different cities for 5 weeks, and then you study at Oxford for the remaining 2 months. And the it's just like a small like first year program that people have, and they have a lot of study abroad programs. I think most colleges do. So I think it's good to do at least one while you're in college, just because it's like a new experience, new perspectives and stuff. But yeah.
Wow, that is really cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I've had a lot of like travel abroad programs, but this is the first time I've had one that really like starts as soon, as college. So I think that's so cool, and I wish you all the best in your travels. Sounds very exciting, and maybe you can tell us more about it when you get back. All right, so let's next ask Mihir.
Yeah, so this summer I'm taking one college class just to get started on my major. But besides that, I'm not doing that much. I'm just gonna kind of take it easy and enjoy the summer because I think in the future I'll have internships, classes, whatnot to do. So for this one, I'm just kind of taking it easy and I'll just, I guess, enjoy before I go to college, but get a little head start on my classes.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Okay, and last but not least, Zainab.
So I've also done like a small head start on my college classes but it's like nothing like too bad. It's just like some light work I can do. And that just ended like a week ago for me because they were only like 4 weeks. And besides that, I have a part-time job. I live in Simi Valley, so the Ronald Reagan Library is like across the street. So I'm doing a part-time job there just to make some money. And then besides that, I've just been trying to have as much fun as I can because it's like the least like stressful summer I've ever had. So I'm really enjoying it. And then I'm also going to Europe just for vacation, though. And I'm leaving this Thursday and I'm going to the Netherlands and Belgium. So I'm really excited.
That is so awesome. Yeah, really happy for you guys. And I'm honestly like, I think it's beyond cool that, even in this relaxation, you guys are still finding time to commit yourself to things like work and, studies. So yeah, very, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Just checking. Ooh, okay. Let's see. So we have a question is, did your intended major affect your admission chances? And let's just start with Zainab.
I have no idea, probably because it was like some schools were engineering and like I feel like STEM is like automatically like it's like harder to get into. So probably, but I there's no way to know for sure.
Yeah, I understand. But yeah, thank you so much. Mihir.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the school, but it probably did affect my chances. Like STEM and yeah, like I guess engineering in general is kind of usually more difficult. So it does affect your chances, but it might not be just look for like each college and see what the chances are, and then you can decide what you want to try for based on that kind of. But you definitely have to look based on each college.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Aryeman.
I think it works kind of both ways. Like if you let's say your extracurriculars are in the STEM field, it's sure it is harder to get into those schools, but I think some students try to like game the system by applying for like a non-STEM major, and then they want to switch majors while they're in college. Um, but the issue with that is if you apply for a non-STEM major, colleges like they know that you're doing that, and then if your extracurriculars don't align with that non-STEM major, it becomes harder to get into that actual major. That makes sense because they know that you're just doing it to get into the school. But also be sometimes it's not guaranteed that once you are into the school you can switch majors that easily. Because a lot of schools have like very program specific majors that they're really good at. Like Carnegie Mellon is a pretty decent school, but their CS is obviously like it's insane. And some people might try to like apply for like maybe I don't know art there, because it might be easier to get in. But then switching to CS isn't as easy or even possible. So now they're like stuck with an art major, even though they wanted to do CS. That makes sense.
Very cool. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. I know that like it can definitely vary with colleges, but certainly I'm sure that the majors that you guys applied to were quite competitive. So that really just makes your accomplishments all the more impressive. So yeah, thank you so much. Okay, next question is how long did you spend studying on the SAT or ACT? Let's start with Aryeman.
I think I spent like I'm not even sure because a lot of the stuff on the test is like pretty general knowledge, and then other things are kind of hard. But studying maybe a couple months. I took like a lot of practice tests for like maybe a month and a half, and that really helped. Um, but besides that, probably like just like the content itself and like yeah, learning the math and stuff, maybe like a month or so. So 2 months or 2 or 3 months total.
Cool, thank you. Mihir.
Yeah, I studied. It was like 3 months around. It was mainly the summer before my junior year, and then I ended up taking it, I think, October. So yeah, it was just for those couple of months. Uh, I studied like quite a bit, like every single week. But yeah, besides those like 3 months, kind of, then I just stopped, and I didn't really do much before that. So yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. And Zainab.
So I took it my June of 2021, and that was the only time I took it. And I just started studying, I think 3 or 4 months in advance. And like to study, I took like a practice test like once a week, and that was kind of it. Because I already had like a ton of other stuff going on. So, and a practice test already takes like 3 or 4 hours. So that was like all I did.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, this next question is pretty fun. And just to kind of give you guys a brief background on why it's being asked, you guys can see in the participants, my friend Crystal, she actually volunteers at like a transitional camp for, students, like international students who are coming to high school in the US. So they're actually sharing one screen, but it's being like broadcasted to like a whole classroom of students. So they wanted to know what is the best thing or like best part of high school in the US? Let's start with Mihir.
Um, I guess the best part of high school for me, I guess, would be all the different clubs and activities you can get involved in, whether that's like a sports team or um, a cultural club or any other type of club. Those were really fun for me, and that's where I think I had the most fun of all of high school, and I made a lot of my best friends there. So I guess yeah, just all the different opportunities and activities that you can do, probably the best part.
Agreed. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Zainab.
Oh my gosh, for me it was definitely football games. Like those were so much fun. I would say like go to those as much as you can because my school student section was so hype. Like we were like in state. So I just had so much fun during those and we even went to like away games all the time. So I would definitely say the football games were where it was at.
Very cool. Thank you so much. And Aryaman.
Um, I think just like exploring different things, cause like after like middle school, obviously middle school is pretty closed off. But I think at high school you see a bunch of different people. You're around a bunch of different people. I switched high schools too, so I went to a school in Washington at first. Then I moved to Arizona. And that switch was a lot as well. I learned a lot about different people, and you watch others grow too, and that helps you grow as well. But yeah, that's probably the best thing about high school here.
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. And Crystal just like texted me live. She said all the students like were very excited to hear your answers. So thank you so much. Yeah, I agree. I think those are definitely the highlights of high school in the US. All right. So do have a few more questions left. I think we're probably going to end the event slightly early at about like 30 minutes past, since I do know some of you guys may have like things planned for after. But I'm going to squeeze in just a few more questions that I did just get in the chat. So 1 minute, please. All right. So another question we have is, which matters more regarding your extracurricular activities, impact or time spent, in your opinion? Okay, let's start with Aryeman.
I'd say that's a good question. I feel like impact like matters a lot more for sure. Just because it's like you have something to show for it. You don't want to work on something for hours and not have anything to show for that. But if you can, I mean, once again, like my point from earlier is that if you spend a lot of time on something, the impact should come anyway. But impact does matter a lot more though.
Cool, thank you so much. Next is Mihir.
I would, I guess, say impact, but the time spent definitely is really important because if you spend a lot of time, you're probably going to have some kind of an impact. That just kind of comes with it. So as long as you can show that you made a meaningful contribution, whether that makes like a big impact or not, as long as you can show like your dedication and what you've done to help whatever you're doing, that is always important. So
Very well put. Thank you so much. And Zainab.
Yeah, I would agree with everyone else. Impact is probably really important. Like I did like an internship for like 2 months and I definitely made an impact. So yeah, impact is probably more important, but it does take a lot of time to make an impact. So it goes both ways.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. All right. So I think we will end with 2 more questions. And I think they put a very nice conclusion to our fruitful discussion. So the first one is kind of, to be frank, what is something that you kind of are anxious about going into college? Let's start with Zainab.
Right now I'm like coordinating with my roommates on like how we're gonna move everything in and all of that stuff and like how we want to decorate our dorms and everything. And it's just giving me a lot of stress because I'm about to go on vacation and I still have to like get a ton of stuff and like order everything. So I'm really anxious about that. And like I also have like signed up for my classes and it does seem like a heavy workload because I'm doing this program at USC called Freshman Science Honors. And because of that, my classes are like more like rigorous and I have more labs. And like because of that, I have to take an ADM and I've heard like horror stories about that. So I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
I'm sure it is, but yeah, I wish you all the best as you embark on this very fun journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, Mihir.
I'm probably most nervous for just like the classes in general. I think they'll definitely be probably harder than high school. And I just hope I can still like keep up and not get left behind. I know there's like a lot of resources for help, so that's a good thing. But just like some of those physics classes and the chem classes, those might get a little bit dicey. So I'll have to figure those out, but I think I'll be fine.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Aryeman.
I think I'm most nervous about like just the location itself. I think Atlanta is a pretty like different place, and I haven't really been to a city like Atlanta before. So I'm just nervous about adjusting into the new environment. And my first semester is abroad as well, so I won't really get the chance to do that. And I'm nervous about that too because I'll be traveling a lot and being in different like settings, which I will enjoy, but I think it's still kind of nerve-wracking. But yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing those experiences. And I think it's just interesting, going into college. It's kind of like high school all over again, but just like in a bigger setting. So definitely wishing you guys all the absolute best. All right. So we do have one last question, and it's just very chill. So of course, high school and I'm sure college is soon to be stressful. What is your favorite way to relax? Okay, let's start with Mihir.
I guess my favorite way to relax is just to go outside, and usually I either just like play basketball with my friends, or sometimes even just I just take a walk, and that kind of just calms me down, and it's a great way to just detach yourself from all the stress and like academics and just focus on what's around you, I guess, and just chill. So that's usually what I do when I'm stressed. Yeah, nature's always helpful for me for that. So that works for me.
Very nice. Thank you so much. All right, Aryeman.
Um, to unwind, I think I might just like I'd sometimes. I mean, I think working out helps with my stress. Hang out with friends too, uh, and sometimes reading or like watching TV. Those two things help a lot as well. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. Okay, and last but not least, Zainab.
Okay, so yeah, if it's like to relieve stress, like I would say like for me, I like to go on runs. So I would go on a run if I need to do that. And then if it's just like to chill, like I would either go out with friends, take a nap, or do self-care, like read or something or watch a show. But yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Okay, let me just see. Okay. We just received a new participant, so they're just in time for the conclusion. All right. Thank you guys, especially the speakers, so much for joining, and for our listeners for joining in as well. Your experiences are so amazing, and I think it's so cool. You guys are going to be going on this really amazing journey. So maybe you guys can come back and share that with us again, perhaps next year if possible. But yeah, again, thank you so much. Friends as well also expressed that the students who are in the transitional camps coming to the US are also very excited. You guys have painted a very bright future for them, so they're very, very anticipating that. Okay, so that is the end of our college panel. Thank you guys all for joining, and yeah, have a great rest of your day, and good luck with college to our speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.